When I talk about slowing down, I don't mean doing less. It's all about not doing the things that you don't need to do in order to do more of the things that you want to do and to show up as the best version of yourself.
Hello and welcome to A Moment in Health, a new series from Bupa Global where we discover the health milestones that have sparked life-changing stories. I'm Dr Karan, a doctor and health educator. I believe that prioritizing your well-being and arming yourself with proper health and medical knowledge can give you more time to do whatever makes you fulfilled. Our guest today is quite literally proof of this principle. Emma Harris is a high performer by anyone's standards, CEO of a brand and culture agency, Glow London, influencer, advocate and mum. But in 2022, a life-threatening health crisis directly caused by her relentless schedule changed everything. She's here to share how that day prompted her to swap the cult of busyness for a new, more intentional approach, one that recognizes the need to balance mental and physical activity with essential opportunities to rest. Emma Harris, you've got a fantastic story to tell, which really I think is quite powerful. But before we get into that, the details of that, can you paint me a picture of what your life was like in early 2022?
So mum, primarily, mum of four, ranging between the ages of 21 and 5, running my own business, on the exec team of another business, trustee of a charity, on the PTA, married to an actor. So kind of crazy life, not the kind of average 9-to-5 couple. A bit of a whirlwind, that's how people used to describe me.
Did you have any routines in terms of wellness and health that you were looking after yourself? Anything back in 2022?
So I was someone who's regular at the gym, running. In fact, the week we're going to talk about, I had run twice that week. And the day this incident happened, I'd done a HIIT class in my bedroom. So I'm someone who's always taken my health very seriously, very low cholesterol, a generally good bill of health, because I did always watch what I ate and my sleep, and was very aware of the kind of connection between mental and physical.
Were there any signs looking back now that maybe there was something amiss, or there was some certain points where you were drifting off baseline, whether it was physical stress or mental stress?
So if I'm honest, I don't look back and think that was I felt the stress. I think that's the interesting thing. You don't always feel it, but the body keeps the score, right? And I'd lost both my parents in the years previously. My eldest two kids are my stepkids, and I don't know if you've got any experience of blended families, but that's always very challenging. And running a business, setting up a business, COVID, homeschooling, all the things that we've been through. But if you said to me at that week that it happened, are you stressed? I would have said, no, I'm fine.
So you're successful, so professionally and personally, you're everywhere.
Yeah.
0 to 100.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be the first person to come to mind when you hear the words health crisis, given how, fit you are and how, active you are. But in New York, you were on a work trip and you had a major health crisis.
Yeah.
Just explain a little bit about what happened.
So I had been in Chicago the week before. I had 36 hours between Chicago and New York, and went home and then went back to New York and had a week of board meetings. We were ready to leave. We'd packed up and we'd gone for brunch. And I'd been saying all week I was tired, and I'd been drinking a lot of coffee, out, up early running, out late and working all day. And I'd been saying how tired I was. And I got up to go to the loo. Now, all the rest of this is third-party account because I don't remember any of this. I don't really remember the day. Said I'm going to the loo, said I feel dizzy, and slid gracefully down a chair and had a cardiac arrest. Well, you know what cardiac arrest is, but for people that are listening that don't know the difference between cardiac arrest and heart attack, it's, lights out. And if you're not anywhere near a doctor or a defibrillator, I think it's 91% of people with an OHCA and out of hospital cardiac arrest die. And of the 9% that survive, about 60% get brain damage. So had I made it to the toilet, I wouldn't be sat here.
So, without sugarcoating this, you were technically dead.
Yeah.
Your heart had stopped.
Yeah.
No electrical activity in your heart. So you were technically no longer with us.
Yeah.
From those third-party accounts, what happened when you had the cardiac arrest?
Well, I started going blue. Apparently there were people sort of bringing me water, and my friends screaming, call 911, is there a doctor here? And amazingly, not one, not two, about 3 people stood up.
Wow.
2 women who apparently were cardiologists and 1 guy who was a paramedic. So it couldn't have been more perfect. They gave me CPR. And so that's sort of miracle number 1. Miracle number 2, the ambulance came in 7 minutes, which for Manhattan is unbelievable. They got me in the ambulance. My heart stopped again. Apparently there was a moment where the medic that had been working on me came out of the ambulance shaking his head, and my friends thought, we've lost her. Heart started again. They defibbed. It stopped again, defibbed again, and it started. And then my recovery began. The first hospital I was at, they just thought I wasn't going to make it. But gradually, as they started taking all the machines off the next morning, I was absolutely fine. And as you can see, made a full recovery.
And actually, you made a post on LinkedIn from your hospital bed.
Yeah.
And we were chatting earlier, and you said you don't actually remember doing that. No. But your post, which you did from your hospital bed, resonated with millions of people across the world.
Yeah.
What was that post?
It was, when I woke up in ICU, and it took a few days for me to really work out what had happened and where I was, I just was overwhelmed with this sense of, what have I been doing? I'm waiting to start my life, waiting till what? I'm successful enough or rich enough or have a good enough car or I'm thin. What am I waiting for? And it just was so overwhelming thinking about, I put myself here the way that I just never put myself first. Like a lot of people, particularly women, who I think we carry the mental load when you've got kids. You're all never putting yourself first. I'm someone who's always put my first with my hand up to help. I don't even know I'm doing it. And I just was overwhelmed with this sense of, why am I doing this? And so I shared this thought, and to say to people, don't end up here. Please don't be me. And it resonated is the word, because it got 9 million views, which on LinkedIn is just not heard of.
Yeah.
And the comments weren't wish you better. There were people pouring their hearts out. One guy talking about how he worked in advertising, was on his way to a pitch, which is a big deal in advertising, knew he was having a heart attack, went through with the pitch. I mean, just this madness that we all live in because our unconscious mind's constantly giving us on the catastrophization that might never happen, and we react to it. And so I shared this post, and the reaction to it made me think, God, I've got to do something about this.
So this cardiac arrest was a major moment in your health journey. What was your mindset like, and what was your lifestyle like after that?
My big thing is just about prioritizing my physical and mental well-being. That's the big thing that's shifted. It's about the choices that I make every day, what I call the sort of micro decisions about what to do and not to do, to make sure I am doing exactly that, getting those different types of breaks, prioritizing being with my family. Our energy is very finite. And I actually put in that post, spend some time today with your loved ones, sitting in a park, looking at the trees, breathing, all these things. Athletes know they don't train 7 days a week, yet business people often work weekends, work on holidays, just think that they can keep going and don't realise the body will keep the score.
And on this point, I learned something really interesting by Dr. Sandra Dalton-Smith, where she was talking about the 7 different types of rest. And this was an eye-opener for me, because rest isn't just a button that you turn off or on. There's the physical rest where you actually just chill. There's the mental rest where you might want to relax and just switch off from work. There's the emotional rest where, there's some authenticity, you be honest with yourself. Social rest where you spend time with loved ones. Sensory rest where actually you give your senses a rest, your ears, your sight, all those sort of things. There's spiritual rest where you may want to consider something bigger than yourself. There's so many different buckets, and as someone who's been a doctor, been a surgeon myself, and I've been guilty of this, you almost have this tendency to wear lack of rest and pushing yourself to the edge as a badge of honor. And that is really toxic, because sometimes you wouldn't tell yourself that I'll sleep when I die, and it's all about productivity. And that is when it can get really the vicious cycle where you keep working, you don't rest, you want to keep working more to achieve another goal.
That badge of honor's so true. One of the very few things that I think has come out of COVID as a positive, which is now, you sneeze on the tube in London, everyone tuts at you. And it's not quite so cool to go to work ill, but, It used to, that story I told about the guy in advertising that went through the pitch with a heart attack. And everyone, when I tell that story at an event, they all gasp. And I go, you may be gasping, but how often have you gone to work ill?
Do you think that's a huge mindset change which has happened since the incident to just improve your life and understanding of how to look after yourself in all aspects of your health?
There's the irony. I know all this stuff. I've been talking about this stuff. I've been telling other people about this stuff. I mentor and coach young people and have done for years. That was the big moment I had in ICU, is why have I not been living to this? I know how the unconscious mind works.
What major changes to your health have you initiated now?
I think the biggest change is my mental health rather than, physical. I did always look after myself. I am much more conscious of the sleep that I get. Always exercise, I have PT, regularly walking. The mental change is the biggest. It's that really conscious of stress triggers and being really aware of being mindful, being present, not responding to the catastrophization, taking a breath, being much better at saying no and prioritizing myself. That's the big change.
I think it's appreciating that stress is not just in the head, but has ramifications, consequences for the body. It can impact your immune system and make you more prone to getting infections. It can impact your gut health, causing diarrhea, constipation. It can impact your, mood, your neurochemistry.
100%. It's because my stress management is so good that my body is incredibly healthy. My immune system is very, very strong. So when, there's stuff around and I'm watching other people, I generally feel like those that are more stressed go down harder. But my body is, fighting things because my mental strength is very strong. I completely agree with you.
So if Emma in 2022 was sitting here instead of me, or if there was a bunch of other people living these super fast-paced lifestyles on that hedonic treadmill, chasing goal after goal after goal with no rest, what advice would you give to such a person?
Work out what actually matters and prioritize it, because that's often the thing. Before I had my cardiac arrest, I thought I was doing that, but the amount of bedtimes and bath times and school assemblies I missed, and the prioritizing work or other people's needs over my own. And it sounds really obvious, but often we think we're prioritizing the thing that matters by working, because we're catastrophizing the if I don't do this, something terrible will happen and we'll all end up on the streets. Yet in doing that, in being on that treadmill, you're missing out on what's really important, and that is love, and that is being surrounded by love and choosing to find moments of joy and to look after yourself. So that's the big thing. Work out what really matters and find a way to prioritize it.
So it's not simply money equals success, but, finding out what your own version of success or fulfillment is. And clearly now for you, it's spending time on yourself, but family as well.
And helping other people. This gives me joy. This is my purpose. Really that LinkedIn post was the best thing I ever did, because I've always been a speaker and I've always helped other people. But now I have a story that really gets attention because it's real and it makes people realize how close they can come to that. When I talk about slowing down, I don't mean doing less. It's all about not doing the things that you don't need to do in order to do more of the things that you want to do and to show up as the best version of yourself.
Emma, thank you so much for just sharing your story. And there's a lot of lessons here as well for a lot of people to learn, myself included, because I also experience a lot of the stresses of life and I don't acknowledge them as often as I should. So just thank you for sharing your entire story and also your mindset change as well.
An absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.